Hey NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, this is Corey Thorpe back with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft, custom apparel and merch. Great folks over there. We'll chat about them a little later on. They have some big ties with one of the teams in here, so we'll give them a little bit extra due. Tonight, we are covering the Heart North tonight and get a freebie a little later on in the week, a little twofer, as we are going to cover the Heart all in 1 week, make up a little bit of time as we had to get everything kind of fell a week out of our schedule. So we're getting back up and with a couple of hopefully shorter podcasts after a 14-team league and a 11-team league. A couple of sevens are just going to be perfect. So Matt, the first one up here, the Clark Pride, 1-10 last year, 90th in SP Plus, 85th in Massey. You know, this is Adam Hicks' third season. It's been a rough go for him the last few years getting this Clark Pride team back up and going.
Yeah, but I mean, you're still in a spot where you can, sky's the limit for you. Third season, you're starting to get a little bit comfortable with the guys who have stuck around through your first bit of your time there as the head coach in Adam Hicks. So, I think they could win a conference game or two this year. I definitely think they're going to be better, and I think it's going to have to really rely on that defense.
Yeah, the big guy that's coming back for you is Gabe Guyton. 5 interceptions a year ago, but this was a defense that the defense was the strong suit of the team, 87th in SP plus, even though and it speaks more to the offensive problems than it does the defensive being amazing, but still, of course, negative in your yards per play. You're really going to have to replace Brian Valdez, though. That was a big guy. Your middle linebacker, 98 tackles, 12 and a half for loss, 5 sacks. That's a big one to replace in the middle of your defense. And like we said, I mean, I guess offensively, one of the good things is you got Roland Hazard Jr. coming back, second teamer uh, in terms of wide receiver, second team kick returner. That's a guy who's shifty. You return your starting quarterback, but you've got a lot of pieces that you've got to replace there, especially depth pieces of both running back and wide receiver.
Yeah, this is definitely a Clark squad that you're going to see some unfamiliar faces probably pop up for them across the board this year, especially on the offensive side. I mean, you don't have many people coming back as weapons for Estrada, so it'll be curious to see how they handle that.
Next up, it's a team who I think might have been first up last year, Culver Stockton. And Matt, I'm gonna use the turn of phrase that absolutely nobody likes is they played a little better than their record, especially going up to the end of the year. Culver Stockton in the beginning of the season looked absolutely horrible, and you can ask our friend CSC Bowler on this one. They were pretty terrible at the beginning of the year, but come to the end of the year, those pieces started to lock together and started looking like a team who had some life to them.
Yeah, they looked like a team with life, and I think that's going to roll into this coming season, especially with how many people you return on both sides of the ball. You have a lot of your pieces in play. Culver Stockton every few years feels like a team that top 25, like top 20 type of team that can kind of get anybody on a good day. Um, and I think they're going to be back to that a bit this year. I think they could probably have a winning record with this squad they're bringing back. Obviously, you have Kyle Dixon leading the way for you, which is absolutely humongous. And a couple other noteworthy names there on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, having Kyle Dixon coming back, that's an 1,100-yard receiver with your starting quarterback, Drake Day. That's big. I mean, having a quarterback that's returning and a big receiver, that's huge. You got to figure out what you're going to do at running back. Nicholas Jarrett should be the one that steps up for you, but you're losing to Marion Cobb, who was really good the last few years. And, well, I mean, you talk about it. They return most of their offense and almost all of their defense. This is a Culver Stockton team who had been very, very young and now could see a little bit of that investment in the youth coming to pay dividends here in 2025. Up next is a team that I'm ashamed to say that we absolutely left out last year. Whoopsies. It's going through last year's presentation and went, wait a minute, I'm missing one. That would be St. Ambrose, the Fighting Bees. Matt, I thought all bees were prepared to fight at any given notice.
Not necessarily. I think they're more docile. Like bumblebees aren't really aggressive, you know.
To be fair, though, this bee looks like he's ready to literally throw hands.
No, I mean he's got the Dukes up, dude. He's ready to go.
This ain't no honeybee here. Vince Phillip entering his fourth season. Um, this is a team that has always been kind of in this area. Now, they do have one of the cooler helmets with the honeycomb undertone on their helmet. That is just mwah. Anytime you can have that underlying pattern on your helmet of any kind, I am all for it. Um, but yeah, they have a few coming back. Of course, you're going to have to replace a quarterback, and that's kind of that's always the big one there. Tommy Staples, um, that's a big one to replace there. But Matt, you've got a linebacker coming back that was good, and a DB who picked off 5 balls last year as well.
Yeah, the defense is going to have to be the anchor of the team this year because you're going to have a lot of things to figure out on the offensive side of the ball. Even with the guys that you do bring back on offense, which is few, there's not a lot of experience between them, especially in the quarterback room, like we mentioned. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what this team is going to be capable of until we get like 2 or 3 games in and I can see how their offense rolls. Um, I think Philip has him in the right direction. I think this has been a competitive team the past few years. So, maybe they can make some things happen, but it'll have to be spearheaded, like I said, by the defense.
Now going from that to a team that I don't know. It's weird. When we started covering NAI football, they were an absolute cellar dweller, but at the same time, they've produced NFL talent, and that's William Penn, the home of Snacks Harrison. And look, William Penn, if you don't follow the basketball scene, which, if you're just a football only guy, I totally get it. But if you are, if you do keep up a little bit with basketball, William Penn is a championship level program, and the that level on the hardwood is starting to pay dividends on the football field as well. Mark Benavidez, entering his 3rd season, came over from Avila and is really starting to get this turned around. And yes, 4-6 does not look like an awful lot of a turnaround, but you should have seen where they were to begin with. This is a team that was up 5 overall in SP Plus. That was up 11 spots on offense, getting that triple option rolling. It's a team with a lot of upside, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. I think William Penn is going to be in a very good spot this year. I really like Benavidez as a coach, and I think he's doing a really good job with this program. The past couple of years, William Penn is a team that I've seen a couple games in, and I like raised my eyebrow. Like there's something here. There's something to latch onto with this team. And I think this is the season where you're really going to see it. I think you're going to see Sterling Ramsey like really get after it. And they have all conference weapons at all levels of the offense.
Yeah, no, 100%. Destin Loring was a 1,000-yard running back last year. You have Amir Everett at wide receiver, Alex Price at tight end, and Chris King on your offensive line. Everybody's got a guy. Now you just got to figure out the guys around them to do it. You are going to miss a couple of big guys. Howard Herta there at DB was a multi-time all-conference guy. Malcolm Bryan, the D lineman, 70 tackles from a D-line spot is nothing to sneeze at. And then on special teams, Mason Ford, 39-yard average. And then the long snapper, Tommy Lagarde, you know, punter can't punt it without getting that long snap to him. But this is a team, again, that could really show off this year. You talked about returning Sterling Ramsey. They returned most of their defense to a defense that was 55th. I mean, this is the first team in the Heart North that has a positive yards per play differential, 5.96 gain, 5.13 given up. You make sizable improvements on both sides of the ball, and you should definitely be hard charging for the top half of the conference, if not kind of your first or second runner up in the conference. I don't know that anyone's going to blast past Grandview. That would be a miracle unlike anything I've ever seen. But could you flirt with making life hard for them? Sure. And with that, we will step aside for a word from our friends from AdCraft.
So you want to create and sell custom merch for your team or business. That's exciting, but where do you begin? How much inventory should you order? How do you distribute orders? AdCraft has your answers. Streamline the way you offer custom merch by utilizing our risk-free web store service. We ship directly to each customer, and we have the fastest turnaround in the game. Raise funds for your team or get merch to your employees and patrons. Contact AdCraft today, and let's bring your merch to life.
And that is exactly what they do. And I mean, you look at the fact that they're stationed in Clinton, Iowa, and Bettendorf, Iowa. And I'm going to tell you, this is an NAI born and bred company here. They've got kids who went to Grandview. Like the very shirt that I'm wearing, see if we can do this, is co-branded with the NAIF ball logo. These guys believe in what we do. They are huge supporters, and I am thankful for their support. But as we talk about Grandview and we talk about the Heart North, I always try to give a little extra time to talk about just how connected they are to the league. And we're thankful for them. They understand what it is to be NAIA. So give them a call, give them a DM, email. They are more than willing to work with you on any kind of project. Next up is a team that, Matt, I don't know if I saw it coming as much as I maybe should have. But that's Peru State, the Bobcats, up 12 overall in SP Plus, up to 38th with a pretty good split on yards per play. About 0.7 yards per play split there, as they were up 31 spots on defense a year ago. Phil Ockingay entering his 4th season. And I feel like we undersell Peru State sometimes.
Yeah, I think this is just straight up a contender this coming year. Like they're a very good team, and off the back of a very good defense that is bringing back a lot of its main contributors. Guys like Zahir Washington come to mind on the defensive line, and you have all conference guys at every level being able to have a talented guy to kind of point everybody else in the same direction. It can really pay dividends to the rest of your roster.
Trouble's going to be on offense, where you're going to have a little trouble at quarterback. Your returning quarterback is MJ Nelson with 13 attempts. And then you see there you're losing Jordan Kemp, who was good for 526 yards and had a kick return touchdown. So has a little bit of shiftiness to go along with him. And just like you said, Matt, you return almost all of a really good defense. If you're able to keep everything kind of going there, you might be able to find some opportunities for your offense. But again, it's one of those things where if you have a couple guys that you've had in your back pocket, you might be able to stick them in there and find some nice pieces on offense to surprise everyone.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see how they mesh into the fold of the conference this year, especially with, what they have to figure out on the offensive side of the ball. And especially with the next team we're about to talk about, it gets even more interesting.
Graceland. We talked about William Penn being absolutely terrible. There was no one worse than Graceland. Like, they were putrid. Patrick Ross has done a fantastic job in 3 seasons, that he's entering his 3rd season. Patrick Ross has done a fantastic job in taking this team from the outhouse to maybe sometimes giving Grandview issues. And it's off the back of a really high-powered offense.
Yeah, and I am really excited to see the K to Ross Gerald Monroe connection back in action. Gerald Monroe is probably a player of the year contender as a non-quarterback, like
Yes.
without question. He is that good, and the fact that you bring him back is humongous.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Gerald Monroe put up 200 and almost 300-yard games. I mean, he's a game changer, and the fact that you have another guy like DeJuan McDougal to pair alongside him means that you may be able to pull some of those double teams off of Monroe, because let's be honest, he is an instant double team anytime he's on the field.
Yeah, and I mean the numbers back that up. He had over 1,500 receiving yards last year. Like that is absolutely ridiculous. And on top of it too, like on the flip side of the ball, you also have a lot of that defense still in place, and it was a defense that was pretty good. It was honestly better than your offense, statistically speaking. So really interesting to see how that meshes. I think this is your solidified 2 in the conference this year. And I think they're going to give Grandview some real problems.
Yeah, and look, this is what we said last year, and Grandview goes and wins the darn conference and the national championship with about as easy of a season as I've ever seen. So I'm kind of hesitant to say that Grandview is going to be giving up any ground anytime soon until I see it with my own 2 eyes. But you're not wrong. This is a team that I really would love to see go 5-1 again. Um, you know what? I'm going to go off script a little bit here and see if I can find their schedule to see if I want to proclaim them. No, they do not have their schedule online yet. I would love to see, as I see if I can find it in another spot, I would love to see them go ahead and be very close to a perfect season except for Grandview. It is hard to get a second bid out of this league. But you might be able to do it if you run the table except. And a lot of that is going to depend, and they do not have their schedule up anywhere. A lot of it is going to depend on who you have on the south side that you're playing. Because if you're going to be playing, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. Yeah, outside of it, that's almost the entire south.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to not play one of Benedictine, Baker, and Mid-American NAS, you might be able to get away with it. But that would be certainly a stretch goal for you, is to try to avoid, going 7-4, improving to the 9 or the 8-2 kind of area, and really making the committee have to look at you and argue about not putting you into the playoffs.
Yeah, and it definitely works in your favor that Grandview is the returning national champions. And if you put up a good fight, like, you're probably in a good position.
Yeah.
So
We'll call it the Northwestern effect. I mean, those years when Morningside was running roughshod over everyone, daggum Northwestern wasn't losing to anyone else and would give Morningside a run for their money every time, and you can't keep them out of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But the elephant in the room is Grandview. I mean, what a phenomenal season last year. I mean, I look at the yards per play numbers. 6.18 yards per play is darn good. 3.76 yards per play given up is elite. I mean, this wasn't a team that came out of nowhere. We knew this was a good squad. I would say once they beat Benedictine in like week 3 last year, and they did so handily, I went, okay, Grandview's kind of going to be the team to beat here. And they might be again, because that's an awful long list, especially out of that defense. That was excellent. Filer on the D line, Argo and Sheedy at linebacker, Jones and Butler at D back. I mean, there's one glaring hole, but it's not on defense. That's Jackson Waring. And what a phenomenal season Waring had, especially in the playoffs, where he just took it up a notch. And not just him, but you look at Noah Clark, Jason Weiland, and James Wardick. 3 first-team all-conference offensive linemen. While, yes, you do bring back Dalton Van Pelt, you've got your work cut out for you on your offensive line.
For sure. But I think Grandview's proven that this is a team that reloads. So I'm sure they have guys waiting in the wings that will be just fine and be able to plug in. And plus, you returned like 2 all-conference linemen still. Like, you have 3 leaving, but 2 are coming back, which is crazy. Your entire offensive line is all-conference.
Sick.
But it's just a testament to how well they're coached. And like, watching this team in person at the national championship game last year, they dominated a very good Kaiser team. Really didn't struggle with them at all. It was kind of jarring. So I have no reason to believe that they can't run this back and make another run at the title, especially behind one of the best defenses we've probably seen at this level.
Now, the one thing I will note is that you're also doing it without your head coach, who makes a crosstown move, which let's be honest. You're able to take a coaching gig that is a couple levels up at the FCS level, and you don't have to move your family at all. Your kids get to stay in the same schools. Dude, you can't turn that down.
No.
Joe Woodley goes
can't.
over to Drake, same city. You don't even have to put your house up for sale. That rocks. EJ Peterson entering his first season, to borrow a phrase from FCS football, he is coming in on third base. This is the Ryan Day effect right here. Can he do better than Ryan Day and actually win something, though?
Yeah. Time will tell, but I think they're in a very good position to be able to do just that. And Ryan Day just won a national championship, so like,
Yeah.
you know, he's doing all right.
That's fair. And look, last year we sat here and we said you return a minority of your offense and a minority of your defense. Grandview might fall back to the field a bit. They didn't. So take that with a grain of salt. All right. Our picks. I mean, until I'm proven wrong, I got to go with my winner being Grandview. That defense is sick. And anyone who says that they want to face it, I worry about their mental faculties. Matt, you going to go somewhere different?
I'm in the same boat as you. It's Grandview. Grandview's Grandview. Morningside's Morningside. There are a few teams like this in the NAIA. And yeah, the Vikings are one of them. So
now for my dark horse, I'm gonna ride this horse until it proves me right. I'm gonna go with Graceland. I do think that there is still room to grow, and if with a little bit of luck, you might be able to find your way into the bottom half of the playoffs.
there is some room to grow, but with Graceland, it's hard for me because like this is probably already a top 25 team in my head. And it's hard to look at that team and be like, yeah, nobody will see it coming. Like
right.
they're a pretty damn good football team. So I went a bit further down the list, and I have the field behind me if it was any indication. We got William Penn. Benavidez is a great coach. I already sung his praises earlier. And I think William Penn takes the step. They take the step up. Maybe they knock off a Peru State. Maybe they beat Graceland. Like, who knows, right? But this is going to be a pretty good football team that will be well-rounded, and I'm really excited to see how it goes for them.
Yep. So, what does that mean for our conference strength metrics? Well, in terms of average SP plus, this was another conference that, as a whole, took a little step back in terms of average SP plus. The average team went about a spot and a half backwards, but they still slot in third place, in between the GPAC and the AAC. And second in standard deviation. So, again, it's easier to do if you're smaller, but having the second best team and the 90th best team in the same division does not help you out in the slightest. It's a little hard to do and still have your standard deviation argument intact. That's going to slot them in third place, just behind the GPAC, 4 to 4.1. And again, this is one of those that seems right. The midfield in the GPAC is a little better than the midfield in the Heart North. The bottom tier about equal. Again, I think the numbers are actually doing pretty well on this season. So that ends it for another NAIF Ball podcast. But before we go, I want to thank our patrons. That's going to be DSU Cone, Bob Boone, Roger Meyer, Jeremy Vobel, Fred Christensen, Ace Wellen, Marty Seabolt, Nick Ryan, Kyle Gregory, Tyler Pierce, Justin Hoffman, Steve Speakman, Brian Shake, Julianne Shager, Nate Soapbeer, Stephen Cutler, Julie Loughton, Nathan Moore, Ryan, Jason Crawford, Charles A. Flowers, Todd Nick, Sean Chamberlain, Zach Lance, Casey Willison, Carol C. Suggs, Chris, Derek Lowers, Jason Garnon, USF Sucks, Ian Brookshire, Joey Breckle, Coca Nicholas, Tim Burrow, and MidwestSports.net. So thankful for those guys. If you want to support what we do, that's honestly the easiest way. Patreon.com/NAIFball is the way to go. It is super cheap at $1 a month. Helps us do what we do, get the bills paid, make sure that we can keep expanding our coverage. If you want to support what we do, that's the way to do it. So, end of another one, and stay tuned. A couple days, another one's going to drop. So, with that, we will see y'all in a couple of days.